Tyler from Wendy's here. The best part of Wendy's new Cinnabon Pull-Apart is every part, which means mornings don't suck now. Unless you don't get that cinnamon sugar ooey gooey frosting deliciousness. Get to Wendy's for the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Cinnabon is a registered trademark of Cinnabon Franchisor SPP, LLC.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general, the new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the friendly neighborhood baritone from Jurassic 5 and also Motley fame, Mr. Charlie Tuna, and you're listening to The Library with Tim on rapstation.com.
Yeah. Okay. Totally intoxicated when he drove across the state line. Rapper gone insane. Story on Dateline. Lost his wits. Didn't take his meds. When they pulled him over, this is what he said. I'm a bad motherfucker, man. Shut your mouth.
Well, we're talking about Pharoahe.
Mashing in that Aston Martin on the Verrazano Narrows. Greatest of all time and the latest apparel. 80s baby ladies training on some Mercedes shit. Go tell your favorite rapper, eat a bag of baby dicks. They keep singing the same old song. I'ma bring them the pain for saying the name wrong. Got me going insane, I'ma ask you again. Who put these pussies on top?
PTSD is the fourth studio album by Pharoahe Monch. It is set to be released on April 15th under his independent label, War Media, in partnership with Duck Down Records. The guest includes Black Thought, Talib Kweli, Stepkids, Vernon Reid, and many others. Production by Lee Stone, Marco Polo, and amongst others. Pharoahe Monch, thanks for joining me on The Library on rapstation.com. And Andy, don't stop with Chuck D.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, D.
Cool, man. So, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, obviously tackles many issues like depression, addiction, stresses after a traumatic experience, dealing with PTSD while having to live life. That you do greatly in the song Times Two. So why use this kind of subject to tackle the depths of depression?
I think just following an album Cold War, where I was being outspoken against police brutality, social issues, just healthcare issues, in terms of my theories and my conspiracy theories and things of that nature. I wanted to get into the repercussions of what's that like coming back off of that album, being a renegade. The acronym for the album was We Are Renegades. And not just use it as some provocative title that's fashionable now because it's on the lips of politicians, but more so as a challenge to get into the depths of myself introspectively, put my vulnerabilities on the record as well. I've dealt with depression in a state where the most severe, coming out of a stint in the hospital for 2 weeks with the asthma and just being on heavy medication, steroids and prednisone, treating my asthma. I came out of that left like feeling heavy and really feeling the effects of the side effects of the medication, and really, really, really spiraled down and didn't come out of it until I happened to go to a dentist appointment, and I wrote, on the forms, the medications I was taking, and the dentist was the one who kind of like picked out that the cocktail of medications that I was taking. He pointed out to me the severities and the side effects, and I just like melted in the chair and started bawling like I didn't even know what was causing me not to process normal information or issues that I would normally process. I was having problems with them. I was going to my family and friends like, yo, I don't know what's happening. But luckily, it was pointed out, what it was, and I called my doctor. He was like, stop taking the meds immediately. But nonetheless, even though it was from that spent, I was able to feel the realization of what that feels like, to not sleep for 4 straight days, 5 straight days, and to just be down and heavy and feel this darkness and not really know where it was coming from. So I liken that to what people experience on the depression side every day, or dealing with it, or meditating for it, as well as anxiety and as well as the other issues we face, in these neighborhoods, in New York, in Chicago, the teens dealing with the violence, and not just from a soldier aspect, like from an everyday aspect. And that's why I went with the title, to really talk about where I am, because as an independent artist, I know I'm rambling. As an independent artist, it's like I still got to fund these videos and this marketing, make these stickers and this trip, and still push. It's a boutique business, but you got to get up and you got to open that door in the store, to sell that product. And that picture is not always what get depicted in the media, that how rap is depicted. The glory side is hard work too. So I wanted to just come at it from that angle. Right.
And I think, one of the things I appreciate, many things about this album and many things about your work, is that, like you just mentioned, you're just not tackling PTSD from war vets. You're pretty much tackling people who get PTSD from just living life, So obviously you just mentioned the personal side for you. Also, how much additional research did you have to do going into this album?
I watched documentaries. I listened to people. I understand what the root cause of the symptoms are, or the syndrome is, and immediately I was like, I remember seeing someone get shot in a club, or someone get shot in a neighborhood, or just a number of things that you may encounter growing up in South Jamaica, Queens. And it's just taken as this is what it is, when you don't know any other way or any other things to see, and how do people from that to, car accidents or experiencing death in the family in an unexpected way. How do people go through those experiences and make it through and deal with those voices? It's something that has become more culturally, discussed in the Black community in the latter years than it was 10 years ago, in terms of that type of health and mental health and emotional health. Even in America and in American culture in general, it's become, readily discussed. I was watching one of the TV doctors who's on in the media quite often. He was just saying, for all of his medical experience, he just started really dealing with the voice in his head that, let's say, pressured him and said, you're not achieving fast enough, you're not where you should be, or you're behind where you should be, or you're not working hard enough. He was saying how now, psychologically, he deals with that on the norm, like it's not even a not normal thing to do, to go inside those chambers and deal with it that way. And I just feel like a record like this is a challenge, writing, because it's always difficult to be that vulnerable and expose those things, as well as I want to show, first and foremost, I want to show people that it's not just me. Oh, PTSD should be 4 letters that's easy for people to remember.
Right.
It's real shit.
Actually, I want to, and you kind of touched on it in that last answer, but I want to go into the song Losing My Mind. In it, you spit, my family's customs were not accustomed to dealing with mental health. It was more or less an issue for white families with wealth. And I was wondering, is this a commentary on how class in general deals with mental health issues, or is it more on how race deals with mental health issues? And then how can we get people talking about this?
I feel both. I feel the family psychiatrist is readily available, or, that's something that's dealt with in your family, and it's not an issue, then it's a class thing as well, and it's a financial thing as well. You're talking about, in some instances, people who appendixes are exploding because they don't want to go to the doctor, or they can't afford, or they don't have health care to go and see what this pain is about. Not alone, I'm having trouble sleeping, or I'm not making my grade, and I'm feeling antsy, and I think I may have had what is a panic attack. Like, that type of discussion is pushed to the side, and I think it does have a lot to do with class too sometimes, because of the healthcare issue here in America. And then also, culturally, it's like, you gotta strap up your bootstraps and pull your pants up and deal with what you gotta deal with in impoverished neighborhoods. And it's not, we already are dealing with this. And so, if you're talking about your head, then what are we really talking about? So, I think in past years it was frowned upon. So now, you hear it. I hear discussions openly in diners, in the hip hop community, at hip hop shows. Like, I got to go out and get some air. It feels like I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, all right,
Right.
It's part of the fucking language now.
Or even especially in New York City, you hear, openly people talking about going to their therapist.
Exactly.
It's not a whisper anymore. It's like, you could walk down the street and hear, I'm going to my therapist today, We're speaking to Pharoahe Monch's newest album is called PTSD, out April 15th. Another layer of the album, PTSD, is talking about the experience of black males in America. So I have 2 questions. Which America did you write this album for? And then what do you want or hope the world listener to take away from this album?
Well, I didn't write that piece on my bio, so I'm not even gonna. I wrote this for music lovers, and for the from a director's perspective, of people who want to take time and listen to an entire album, and who just enjoy that type of writing. It's for, I think, millions of people would welcome and enjoy, and be glad to champion this record. The problem is getting it to them in the marketing, and that's why you interview, and that's why you do shows. But I think it's one of my best written albums, and in terms of who listens, I never think of that when I'm creating, in terms of culture or class or race or whatever. It's just, this is for the sci-fi, Breaking Bad nerd, music lover.
I'm going to continue on. So to talk about bad MF. Chuck D on Twitter wrote, quote, when Blaze voted you, speaking about you, Pharoahe Monch, top 50 of all time, I was like, okay, this magazine was legit. And he also said, damn, at Pharoahe Monch, damn, this MF is number 3 on radio, on Rap Station Radio. It ain't a game, he ain't a rook. What do these two quotes mean to you? And it seems you have so much respect for the old school rappers. Do you partly write for them? It's like an ode to them?
There is music that follows this inevitable cycle, and then they intertwine, and sometimes, and then it comes back around. I think at the root of, what good standard quality hip hop is about, therein lies Public Enemy. And I think it should make you move, it should make you dance, it should make you think. It should have a voice to it and a rhythm. And it doesn't have to be political, obviously, but for me, what stood out was the blend of the truth, the honesty, and the tone, and then the production's ability to make it sound like rock, because I grew up a rock fan, and the blend and the layers of sound and all of that stuff was very inspiring to me when I'm going to create. And so I'm trying to evoke that same emotion. It's funny that Chuck gravitated to the Bad MF record because, a lot of that influence and a lot of what I learned from PE is in that song. You talk about radio, suckers never play me, and you talk about radio stations, I question their blackness. These are questions, and I said to myself, let me ask a question on this Bad MF record. Who put these pussies on top, putting out that pussy music, called it pussy pop? It's in the same vein. I want you to think about that bridge right there. Is supposed to be alliteration with the P's, and it's supposed to sound good, but it's also supposed to make you think. Yeah, who is responsible? The fan, the radio, the artists themselves? Is it just a music statement, or is it a statement about the state of where the voice of the people? Who is that voice now, and who is standing up for what they believe in, like Mandela did and Martin did? Who is that person now? And it just seems really flimsy right now. So the aggressiveness of that record kind of forced me in a direction to say, I think a lot of these people are posers.
Right. Right. I mean, rap music is now, the new pop music. So it's really just kind of, it's not about knowing the culture. It's about trying to make the quick buck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's obviously so many good tracks on this album. I want to ask you about all of them, but so I want to kind of continue on. Rapid Eye Movement featuring Black Thought. It appears to take us into a lyrical session of a therapeutic technique known as EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
Where a patient follows a therapist's hands movement while recalling a disturbing event. And when I listened to it, I was imagining like an EMDR session where you are just kind of spitting from what's going on in all parts of your brain. Is this the way you wanted us to hear the song? And also, what was the writing process like on the song working with Black Thought?
The whole record is up to film, and I'm casting for music, and I'm casting for actors, and I need the right people. When I got that music, I was like, I only want one person. I want one person to play this role, I want one artist, and that's Black Thought. You know, I mulled around some other ideas, you know, and I stuck on casting him, so to speak, because I already knew that Rapid Eye Movement for me should be this, like you said, sporadic. Well, here's a thought. Here's another. I'm fucking crazy. I'm mad, and here's something that I wouldn't normally say if I wasn't in this dream state. And here's another thing I wouldn't normally say. Oh, you know, but making sense. That's the style of it. And then I needed someone to come in, same intensity, same skill level, but then he has so many lines that draw you in and stop you and make you respond, oh, you know, and he brings it back home like I knew he would do. As well as this song is mentally, what's happening is as I'm trying to, you know, still make these statements out against what I think is wrong and bad enough, you know, there are consequences to that. And so even the video that we're doing, you know, the goons come out and they beat my ass for saying what I said. And so recruiting Black Thought is like, hey, I need some help. I can't fight this fight on my own.
That actually gets me into another question I kind of was going to ask you a little later, but it's definitely a concept, kind of an overarching approach to each of your last two albums, but also, of course, this one, PTSD. It seems you're very selective with who you collaborate with. I was wondering what's the relationship between the collaborators and your artistic process. Like, do you already know? I mean, do you have an idea of who you want to work with prior to it for all the albums, or does that change based on how, I guess, the album grows?
Yeah, it definitely changes as the album is growing. You know, it's like, it's never a situation where I'm like, hey man, I need you to spit 16 on this beat. It's always usually something that's centered around some type of concept, and you could take it there and you could do what you want, and the artist always has that liberty. But I would, you know, I'm like, we're assassins, we're the last of the assassins, and this is what's happening, so on and so forth. With Rapid Eye Movement, I'm like, oh, you know, it's a dream sequence in my head. I'm going in and I'm trying to spit ferociously. I just need you to conjoin the rhymes together. So whatever I say last, you know, I need you to come after that and join in right after me, you know?
Right. I want to continue on. I mean, you work with, there's a lot of people you work on with this album. With the track Dream, you work with, it features Talib Kweli. I know you guys have known each other for quite a while, obviously, and, you know, have done a few collaborations together. For the listeners, what is it about Kweli as an MC that, you know, makes you want to continue to work with him?
Kweli is just the standard, the consummate lyricist. Pushes the envelope, hardworking. He delivered on that song in a way that brings it to a whole another level. And it's not just oh, I could spit rapidy rap, lots of syllables. It's always he has a perspective on it, and the perspective feels good. Hey, you know, I lost my ability to dream because I was smoking so much weed that I wasn't even with myself anymore, and I was out of myself, and I had to stop in order to relax and, you know, feel what it was like to get back inside myself again and experience, you know, what did I dream about when that happened? I dreamed of colored things and rain. You know, his approach to writing is what I enjoy as a fan, as well as you know, his work ethic outside of the studio, on the stage, on tour, with the label, and so on and so forth, is an example. You know what I'm saying, that
Right.
every artist could follow.
You know, one thing I appreciate, I mean, you know, one thing I appreciate as a fan of yours is when you step out of being Pharoahe Monch and you rhyme in the point of view of like a different person, an object, a place. You know, you've done this in songs such as when the guns are drawn. Sorry, Stray Bullets, In Vitro Hate, What Is Law, Mayor. Is that? I mean, is that? I'm curious. Why is that something that you like to do? I mean, is it a challenge? Is it just a better way for you to tell a story, kind of as if like in tradition of Slick Rick, or is it just a way for you to thrive on your creativity?
I think it's a way early on that I was like, it's just we're so boxed in, you know, in hip hop to I'm a this, I'm a that, I have this, I have that, I do this, I said that. And, you know, early on in my career, I'm like, well, you know, just reading, that's going to limit, you know, the elevation of where this is, when writing poetry and the literary sense is just so vast. There's no end to, you know, what you can create. And so when I was like, let's write this record, Straight Bullet, let's give a voice to what would the bullet say, what would the unborn baby say, you know, I knew that would kind of catch people off guard, but at the same time, it's really not deep to me, you know, because I grew up reading Marvel and watching Star Trek, so none of that is like far-fetched to me in terms of writing. You're always, if you were a fan of What If from Marvel, you know, that book challenged you to be like, what if I split into two people and I battled myself? What if, you know, it's ongoing, you know? And I thought experiencing, you know, my English teachers used to tell us, you know, all these books are fucking terrible for you to read, and just stay in the New York Times, and that's it. We require that you read the Times every morning. And I got it, I get it, but at the same time, a lot of that stuff really challenged the imagination, and even came to fruition when you're talking about telecommunicators and Captain Kirk popping to open some communicator and he's talking to the ship wireless. Like, people were looking at that shit like, what in the hell are we watching right now? But that's where, you know, the things are based in terms of technology, or if you're talking about being ahead of your time, per se.
Right. Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, watching Nightcrawler teleport and trying to figure out, you know, what he was doing while he was teleporting. I know I did that. I was like trying to imagine what the hell I would be doing and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's like the book where, you know, he can't blindly teleport, obviously, because he could wind up fucking stuck in a wall somewhere, and you're like, that's crazy, you know.
Right.
And so, you know, now I'm going to write something, and I'm not supposed to want to give people that same effect, and I'm supposed to be like, look at my jeans, look at my shoes, look at my car, I paid my due. Like, I just never wanted to write that way.
And speaking of obviously stepping outside of Pharoahe Monch, you've done the Bullet trilogy, where we first heard the bullet, the first song, Straight Bullet, in 1994, the second installment, 2007, When the Guns Draws, and now the last installment is on PTSD and Damage. When you started writing, did you know this was going to be a trilogy, and why spread it over 20 years?
It spread out because, I got to find the music. When I heard Denaun Porter's When the Gun Draws, he had the chorus on that song already. First the gun draws in, something's happening. I was like, this would be a perfect template, canvas for gangster rap. But again, I was like, I wonder if you could flip this concept again. And you've done it already, and that's already a challenge. And you run the risk of being redundant. And so it was a challenge. So this time I was like, let's talk about it from the perspective of the countless amount of important leaders and King and Kennedy and assassinations, and what were those bullets thinking, and let's talk about it from that perspective,
The trilogy's over, but obviously gun violence still plagues, the United States. So how else does Pharoahe Monch draw attention to gun violence?
I mean, I think it's a touchy topic because we make it out to be, and I think it's something that could be simplified, but because of private corporations and NRA and, they have their side as well. And I just feel like when our forefathers were like, hey, man, everybody should have a gun in case someone comes on your land and tries to steal your property as we move this country westward, is a difference than Brooklyn, New York in 2014.
Right.
And so, it's like in the instances of Sandy and these mass murders in movie theaters, is just like, can we agree that multi-fired automatic weaponry at least shouldn't be available to the public? Did we disagree with that? I'm like, I don't understand what the argument is when it comes to things like that.
Right. Or at least put like a safety on it.
Something.
Yeah. I want to kind of continue. Go back. Talk about your kind of your writing process and how you build an album. You've done this in each of your you've done this in all your albums, I think, where it seems that you put a lot of thought into the first track and the second track, and you do it in this album where they seem to all fit perfectly together. Mm-hmm. So when you're writing your albums, well, do you write track 1 and track 2 first out of everything? Is track 1 and track 2 usually just one big track that you just split up? How does that work?
Well, it's weird, man. Like I said, the process takes a while because I didn't get Times Squared and Losing My Mind till later in the album. I recorded Times Squared first with Marco Polo, and I was definitely like, oh my God, I know what this is. This is the opening song. It's weird. It makes you feel creepy. It has this fucking weird sound in there. The drum pattern is different. And as it opens up the album, it kind of forces you to be like, alrighty then. This is something going on here. And I love that. I love that. And then not until one of the last songs we did was Losing My Mind. Here we go editing the film, and you're like, man, the story has to make sense. And although I could put this part here and edit it differently, I thought it went really good to try and really pull people down, just musically, even before we get to the lyrics and chorus and content, pull people down musically and let them kind of ease their way into this film and really show them that it's I'm not trying to get you here to have party songs. I'm serious about this topic, and I want to kind of pull you into the depression.
The album PTSD. For you, what track best represents kind of the mission of the album?
Whew. Wow. It's weird. I think that Bad Enough is a big record. I think that Losing My Mind, Broken Again is a big record. And I think Dream is a big record. I think they're very palatable outside of the scope of understanding what this album is about. So aside from the album, I think those records are standalone records outside of the concept. And that being said, right now, it'll probably be it'll probably be Broken Again.
Oh, nice.
My favorite song right now, but it'll probably change.
Right. It'll change once we hang up this phone.
Yeah.
So what's next for you after, what's next for Pharoahe Monch, and what's the best way for people to pick up the album and follow what you're doing?
Well, the album comes out April 15th. We're shooting a video clip for Bad Enough. I just spoke to Black Thought. We're shooting a video clip for REM. And we're trying to shoot 4 clips for this album, video-wise. We're doing U.S. dates with a prominent artist. It's not locked in yet, so I can't say who that is. But that should be amazing because I haven't toured the States in a minute. And, this is my last traditional album like this. So enjoy. I think all my work after this is going to be more like singles, EPs, special projects, and working on a project with Georgia Ann Muldrow, female producer, artist, singer out of LA. And, stuff like that. I think this is the last of the Pharoahe Monch full-length album.
Oh, really? Wow. Can I ask why?
I feel like I want to give the fans more music more readily that's maybe not in an album form. And I have some ideas on how to do that. And, just that format takes me some time to put together, especially as an independent, because a lot of the time creating an album is contingent upon other people. Tariq's busy, Talib's busy, waiting for the engineer that I want to use to finish with such and such as album is contingent upon when they finish, as well as I still enjoy going in studios and recording vocals, and so it's still a time sensitive thing that's not just contingent upon me coming up with ideas and writing an album. a lot of the time with this album is I'm touring still, so a lot of my income is touring. So during this album, it's not like I'm like, I'm gonna take a year off from touring, and so
right.
It's not what people think all the time.
New album is PTSD. Pharoahe Monch is the artist. Out April 15th. Pharoahe, thanks so much for joining me on The Library with Tim Heineke on rapstation.com.
Well, thank you, man.
You know exactly what I am. Murderer. When I'm inserted onto the top of 15 family members, it's the curse of the proverbial anarchy, start of the martyr. This is what I have been converted to do. What I do is insanity, profanity. When they manually hammer me annually, you don't figuratively phase me, yo. I won't tickety cage you, bro. Figuratively fucking cut you in half like it's nothing minus the laser scope. Then I will ring your bell like Avon before displaying some of my various tattoos. Trayvon, the Oscar award-winning Ayanna Jones. Hey, Sean. Sworn to be cannon fodder for your father. Slaughter daughters, armor-piercing tumblers, more deadlier than napalm. Fuck a straight bullet, I take aim when the gun draws. For everlasting fame, I will maim those who change the gun laws. Cause post-traumatic stress disorder, acts any vet I work with. My purpose catching bodies like safety nets at the circus.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general. The new Broadway version of Tommy, he clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.